time 177J, exhibited by Elizabeth Boak from Hicksville, Ohio. Fourth place goes to entry number 81, exhibited by Madeline King from North Hava, New York. Fifth place goes to entry number 84, exhibited by Trey Chefang from Hartwell, Georgia. Sixth place goes to entry number 82, exhibited by Darcy Hauser from Mount Orba, Ohio. Seventh place goes to entry number 80, exhibited by Kara Brooks from Bush Creek, Tennessee. Eighth place goes to entry number 75, exhibited by Annika Gorgie from Battleground, Indiana. Ninth place goes to entry number 76, exhibited by Samantha Roberts, Athens, Tennessee. 10th place goes to entry number 85, exhibited by Quentin Frederick from Chadwick, Illinois. Congratulations. Now entering the ring is Class 8 of your Purebred Simmental Heifer Show. We do need Class 9 in the makeup ring. Again, we need Class 9 in the makeup ring and first call for Class 10.
Third and final call, Class 2, Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 2, Charolais females to the makeup arena. First call, Class 3, Charolais females. First call, Class 3, Charolais females. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the North American would like to welcome your Charolais judge today, Miss Jara Settles. She grew up on a purebred Angus and main Anjou operation in northeast Nebraska. She was a member of the Reserve National Champion Collegiate Judging Team at Kansas State University and received her animal science degree. She graduated from Washburn University School of Law and serves the Livestock Marketing Association as General Counsel and the Vice President of Risk Mitigation. She and her husband, Barrett Carlisle, operate in northern location of Diamond Sea Club Lambs, and she continues to raise cattle with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming Jara Settles to the Green Chips here at the North American.
Another nice class in our fall division. Young ladies heifer that leads off, just a big, powerful, soggy-made individual that can get out and cover her track. We're just going to change her and extend her out through that front end. Heifer that comes second, another female I like in terms of her angles. The heifer gets out really fluid in terms of her movement, not near the power in terms of muscle and volume. Young ladies heifer that comes next, another deep rib, bold sprung female, not quite as fluid when you put her in motion. The young man's heifer that comes in next, a moderate frame, soggy designed individual, not quite as extended out through that front end. The heifer that completes the class, a heifer's got a lot of depth and spring of rib. A female, as you get behind her, just like to give her more width of base and more natural thickness.
Well, good afternoon over here from the Charolais show, and I think just a beautiful example of a female to get us kicked off here in the calf division. I think one that just in terms of being quite complete but still dialing up the amplitude in terms of quality and showing eye appeal and still brood cow character, one that you can really get to liking a lot of things about. I think her particular advantage over the heifer that's in second, she's just quite a bit cleaner in terms of her details. She's freer of excess skin at the base of her throat, blends a little bit neater there in terms of the top side of her shoulder blade, and she's freer of excess skin there in terms of her navel. I think a really nice heifer hits the ground nice and sound. I think a really functional kind of a brood cow prospect comes in the second position, huge-footed, big column of bone underneath of her. Love the extra center body that she's got. She's just super raw today, and I think that all of her parts and pieces maybe don't blend together with the same kind of finesse that we find in our class winner. I think her better days are yet ahead of her, and I think some additional time will allow her to step down with a little bit more confidence in terms of her hind leg positioning. I think it's a close decision between third and fourth, and I guess I go with the one that's a little bit longer bodied, a notch more extended from her shoulder blade forward, and a little bit more feminine about her head and her cheek. I think that she's one as an individual you can appreciate in terms of that extra extension. I think also as an individual you've got to start to kind of get a little tough on her in terms of her forerib design. She just strikes me as one that's be a little bit harder to maintain, maybe take a little bit longer to kind of reach that perfect level of maturity. But boy, once she's a big fleshy bred heifer, I think she's going to look really beautiful this time next year. I think compared to those two other heifers ahead of her, that's where I might like to change her. Like I said, I think you could entertain a switch here between 3 and 4, and if you like the more moderate frame, really big backed, really shapely kind of heifer that comes in this fourth position, I don't argue with you too terribly much. I think we set those cattle into motion, and you read her to be just a nickel straighter in the angle of her shoulder. She matches it there in terms of her foot size being a little bit more refined, a little tighter in terms of her pastern. But boy, one trip behind her, you love the extra shape and robustness that she's got. I think some similar things can be said about the cream heifer that comes in the next position. Huge backed, really, really shapely and big in terms of her pin set. She matches it in terms of her foot and bone. Unfortunately, when we put all that extra muscle into one, she just gets a little bit more tied up in terms of her type and kind and her structure. Just wish we can make her a little bit more refined. The more refined option comes in the next position, and she's one that, again, time is her friend. She's a good fronted kind of a heifer, very clean in terms of her neck, and I think that just in terms of being a touch straighter off both ends, maybe a little bit harsher in terms of her rib cage, relegates her to looking a little bit less mature, maybe acting a little less mature as well out here today. A really excellent class to get us started off.
Second call, Class 3. Charolais females, second call, Class 3. Charolais females to the Bank-Up Arena. Results of Class 1. In first place, entry number 5, TSSC Wedding Date, exhibited by Sydney Allard from Sydney, Nebraska. In second place, entry number 3, RCMS Sweet Ellie 6K, exhibited by Hayden Nagel of Fountain City, Indiana. In third place, entry number 6, Ellis Davis. In fourth place, entry number 9, Elijah Downey. In fifth place, entry number 4, Guinevere Bowman. And in sixth place, entry number 2, Riley Revels.
Second call for Class 10 purebred Simmental heifers. Second call for Class 10 purebred Simmental heifers. Places in Class 8 purebred Simmental heifers are as followed. First place goes to entry number 91, JSUL Claire's Mary 1520J, exhibited by Claire Dorsey from Morrow, Illinois. Second place goes to entry number 89, KC2 Miss Circle Y 1343J, exhibited by Carly Nitz from Epworth, Iowa. Third place goes to entry number 86, JSUL 11 Mary 1523J, exhibited by Addison Finning from Coldwater, Ohio. Fourth place goes to entry number 94, exhibited by Lane Boatwright from Franklin, North Carolina. And fifth place in that class goes to entry number 93, exhibited by Wyatt Jeffries from Taylorsville, Kentucky. Congratulations. Again, now in the ring is Class 9 purebred Simmental heifers, and third and final call for Class 10 purebred Simmental heifers.
Third and final call, Class 3, Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 3, Charolais females to the makeup arena. This is your first call, Class 4, Charolais. First call, Class 4, Charolais females.
Another really stout set at the top of this class. Differences I see, the heifer we're starting with, really a soft design, deep rib, bowl sprung female. I love her in terms of her forerib, yet she lays in neat through the point of her shoulders. Really a lot of quality and femininity up through that front end. You put her in motion, really gets out, covers her track, powerful in terms of her muscle and volume. Heifer that comes in second, another probably a little longer bodied female, not quite the forerib as a heifer that leads off. Maybe not quite the smoothest through the point of her shoulders. Two really outstanding, high quality, very sound structured females. Heifer that comes in next, another straight line. Heifer is very, got a lot of balance and eye appeal. Just like to power her up in terms of her structure and overall natural thickness as compared to the two heifers that lead off. Young lady's heifer that comes in next, another long bodied individual's got some rib, maybe not quite as extended out through that front end. The heifer that completes the class has got some dimension down that top and through her quarter. Just simply like to put a little more extension up through that front end and let her take a softer stride off that hind leg.
We've got a nice pair of heifers over here, and obviously a little bit of disparate in terms of frame and weight per day of age, and that definitely goes to the advantage of the heifer that I like to win, but that's not why she wins. I think she wins because she's the good fronted heifer who's still sound in terms of her feet and leg placement. She's exceptionally long, and she's very level down her top line until we get to kind of her tail head placement. And I think she's the one that kind of just silhouettes with the extra pieces of balance and quality that we might expect from a show heifer. I think that if you start nickel and diamond on her, you might want to make her a notch more robust in terms of her forerib. I maybe kind of hinted that I don't love necessarily the placement of her tail head and how that sits down into her hip, but still I think one that just in terms of quality and balance, a very nice place to start. Still, a good brood cow prospect comes here in the second position. I do give her the comparative advantage in terms of that center body and that softness. She looks like she's going to be a moderate frame, easy keeper once we put her back into the cow herd. I think one trip around the ring, though, you've got to appreciate she's maybe a little bit plainer from her shoulder forward, and I think that the more concerning issue for her is she's just a notch shorter out of her hip, subsequently wants to drop that hock and pastern just a little straighter to the surface, but still a really nice functional brood cow prospect for the young lady.
Third and final call, Class 4, Charolais. Third and final call, Class 4, Charolais.
Places in Class 9 of your purebred Simmental heifer show are as followed. First place goes to entry number 104, Bram Let's dash DBLG Knockout J188, exhibited by Hogan Hendrickson from Farmland, Indiana. Second place goes to entry number 108, Bramlett's DBLG Emmy J192, exhibited by Caden Childers from Hartselle, Alabama. Third place goes to entry number 107, exhibited by Kyra Moore from Fountain Run, Kentucky. Fourth place goes to entry number 99, exhibited by Madison Metzger from Rockfield, Kentucky. Fifth place goes to entry number 96, exhibited by Cammie Ford from Mountain, Michigan. Congratulations. We will now be selecting your Division III champion purebred Simmental heifer.
Really a nice lineup in our Division III semi-female heifer that wins that first class in November. The heifer's really got a lot of look, eliteness about her. A female that lays in neat through the point of her shoulders, really got a lot of quality up through that front end, yet she opens up in a great rib shape, plenty of forerib. Heifers you put in motion really gets out, very athletic and fluid in terms of her movement, and still gives you that quality look from the side and a very structurally correct, powerful package. Heifer that wins the next class, just a deep rib, bold sprung female, powerful in terms of her rib and overall shape. Maybe not quite the extension out through that front ends, a couple of the heifers, but powerful in terms of her volume and rib. The heifer that wins that last class at the, September, this really stands on a lot of substance of bone, a big foot. A heifer is really deep and bold through that rib shape, and still has a lot of look about her. Let's give these exhibitors a round of applause, and we'll go select you a champion.
First call, Class 5 Charolais females. First call, Class 5.
We bring that second place in here, and I think that was a really strong class. Another very sound moving female. You like her in terms of her angles, the length of body, a powerful heifer in terms of muscle and volume. She'll be reserved.
We got to see a little preview of this heifer. She tried to come in a little bit earlier, and I liked her then, and I keep liking her now. I think she's one that, relative to her age, I think is just spot on in terms of where she needs to be in terms of immaturity, youthfulness, appropriateness of condition. And I know that when we get to showing these babies, especially on the national stage, it's so hard to resist the temptation to really kind of lay the cover on them. But she is just, obviously in it for the long run. And she's built so good at the ground, big square feet underneath of her, tons of bone work to her, incredible from her shoulder forward. She's maybe not the one, especially as you compare her to these cattle in this class, that's going to overwhelm you in terms of muscle or just in terms of skeletal dimension. She's a little bit less impressive in that regard. But man, in terms of a silhouette and in terms of quality, I think she's a pretty nice place to land. I think one that's just kind of her yin to the yang of our class winner is the heifer that comes in second. Man, she is bold and she is expansive. She's huge topped and thick ended. I love the extra center body that she's got to her. I think that as we get off to the side of these cattle, you read her as maybe being just a little lower fronted relative to our very attractive class winner. I still think, though, for one that's maybe a little bit finer in terms of her bone work relative to such a big burly frame, she still gets around the ring good enough to certainly get that second place nod. And I just love the extra dimension that she's got. I think that especially comparing her to the other thick heifer in class, I think that it's a structural differential that probably goes to the favor of the second place heifer. Third place heifer is probably a little bit bigger footed. I do think she meets the surface with a notch more substance of bone, and she too is massive in terms of her top shape. I think as you get up on top of her, though, she wants to break in behind that shoulder blade. She attaches that neck a little lower into that shoulder. Subsequently, I think that just exacerbates the fact she's not straighter in the angle of her shoulder blade and her hip, and just doesn't want to go out and reach and stride out as maybe perfectly as I'd like to see, but still I think a really nice muscular female.
Second call, Class 5 Charolais females. Second call, Class 5 Charolais females. First call, Class 6 Charolais. First call, Class 6 Charolais.
Congratulations to entry number 77, Division III champion, purebred scimitar goes to entry number 77, exhibited by Case Harker from Hope, Indiana. Any reserve Division III champion goes to entry number 83, exhibited by Seth Martin from Kingman, Indiana. Congratulations. Now in the ring is Class 10 of your purebred scimitar heifer show. We do need Class 11 in the makeup ring and first call, Class 12.
Results of Class 2 of your Charolais Juniors show. In first place, entry number 12, SWF Miss Carey, 2213, exhibited by Andrew Chapman of Kearneysville, West Virginia. In second place, entry number 10, RC Star Kennedy, 1820K, exhibited by Hayden Nagel of Fountain City, Indiana. Your Class 3 results. In first place, entry number 17, Dunk Lizzo, 204K, exhibited by Hadley Dunklau of Wayne, Nebraska. In second place, entry number 18, BWMN 2201 Miss Valentine CC, exhibited by Guinevere Bowman of North Salem, Indiana. In third place, entry number 19, Thomas Moran. Now exhibiting in the Charolais ring is class number 4. Third and final call, Class 5, Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 5, Charolais females to the Main Cup Arena. Second call, Class 6, Charolais. Second call, Class 6, Charolais females.
Third call for Class 11, purebred Simmental heifers. Last call for Class 11. We need entry number 126 in the makeup ring immediately. Again, we need entry number 126 in the makeup ring immediately.
Another really nice class in our July division. Heifer that leads off, I like the freshness of condition, the femininity and extension out through that front end. She lays in neat through the point of her shoulders, yet really got a plenty of depth and spring of rib. The heifers you put in motion really gets out and covers her track. Just really got a lot of quality look and powerful in terms of depth and spring of rib. Heifer that comes in second, another female that's got a lot of dimension down that top, thick and square through her hip. Not quite the extension out through that front end, not quite the freedom in terms of her movement as a heifer that leads off. Black heifer that comes in third's another deep rib, bold sprung female, not quite at the smoothness up through that front end, not quite the cleanliness and freshness as a heifer that leads off. The baldy that completes the class has got some dimension down that top through that quarter, just like to extend her out through that front end and free her up in terms of her movement.
And in first place in class number 10 of your purebred Simmental heifer show goes to entry number 112, UDE Kansas 402J, exhibited by Sloan Curtin, Oxford, Iowa. Second place goes to entry number 109, TL Princess 106J, exhibited by Grace Lemonager from Fairbury, Illinois. Third place goes to entry number 110, Miss Star Power J61, exhibited by Eva Jones, Shelby, North Carolina. And in fourth place goes to entry number 111, 807J, exhibited by Katie Lambert, Vicksburg, Indiana. Now entering the ring in your purebred Simmental heifer show is Class 11. Again, Class 11 is now entering the ring. We need Class 12 in the makeup ring, and first call for Class 13 and 14.
Third and final call, Class 6 Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 6 Charolais females.
I think a fun class, and I think a deep class, and I think one that offers some challenge, especially as you kind of break them into a trio and then yet another trio of cattle that can honestly see some argument and some sort amongst them. But I think that first impressions are definitely to the advantage of the young lady's heifer with the birthmark behind her shoulder. I think that just in terms of softness, in terms of substance, and in terms of brood cow character, there's a lot of things to like about this very highly presented heifer. You know, I think that as she ages and she matures, she'll be one that's maybe a little, requires a skillful hand to maintain the freshness of her shoulder forward. As you're starting to already read her as kind of getting some wrinkles there and maybe getting just a little less than perfectly refined. And, you know, where I might like to modify her also is I'd like to pick her up in her pin set and maybe set her tail head in her just a little bit more level. But man, when she gets her put together and gets her rolling around the ring and she relaxes, I think she's one that's just got a world of quality. Like I said, first impressions certainly are no detriment to her. I think one that's presented in a little bit leaner rig is the gentleman's heifer that comes in next. And I do think that that's to some extent an advantage, at least under this judge. She reads quite a bit more youthful and thin at the top of her neck, and how she blends that into her shoulder blade. She's freer of excess skin through the base of her throat and into her brisket. And I do think she sends that top line just perfectly level into her upper hip. And on the standstill, that's one that you've got to love. I think when we get her into motion, that's when you start kind of picking and nickeling and diming her. She's just a touch straighter in terms of the angle of her shoulder. She matches that, being just a touch shorter in terms of her hip, and subsequently just doesn't want to get out and go with the same flexibility that we see in that class winner. But on the standstill, it's a beautiful heifer. You know, I think the one that really kind of hits me hard from an initial impression of just of a brood cow is the moderate framed heifer that comes in the third position. It starts at her foundation. She's big-footed. She's really big boned. I think she's probably the truest in terms of her center body relative to the kind of presentation and cover that she brings to us today. I love the shape of her rib cage. I think we get her out here relative to her contemporary. She's a little bit more compact in her design, a little bit plainer from her shoulder forward. And I love a squishy-footed one, but she's one I almost wish she had a little bit more authority in terms of how she planted her pastern at the surface. But I think just an exceptional brood cow in the making. And then like I said, there's a trio of heifers that have a little bit of sort to them. And I guess I see the most good in the kind of cream-colored heifer that comes in next. I think she's benefited by a very good showman. And I think she's one that when she stopped really puts herself together. I love how nice and high she throws her neck on the top side of her shoulder, paints a beautiful silhouette on the standstill. I think as she gets to tracking, it's her hip and her hind leg that I'm just not perfectly in love with. She's just a little less attractive, a little less far-reaching and flexible in the design of her hind leg. But boy, like I said, on the standstill, I think one that's got a lot of quality. You know, unfortunately, this little heifer just doesn't want to participate out here, and I think you can catch some glimpses of really good things coming when her attitude improves. She's really sweet-fronted. I think she's one that's got some natural substance in terms of body depth. You know, I think that one trick when you sit behind her, she wants to be a little less robust in terms of her forerib. She maybe tracks away with a little less width between her back legs than I might like to see. And like I said, she just didn't want to get out here and show herself off as good as we might have preferred. Big, long-bodied, high-performing heifer comes in next. Love the extra extension she's got. You know, she's one that if we could redesign her hip and her hind leg and make it just a little bit more functional and attractive, I think she could slide up a couple positions. For me, though, she wants to snap those pasterns as she gets to rolling around the ring, and I just wish we could give her a little bit more consistency as she hits the surface. Rounding things out, we've got a long-bodied, extended heifer. Just needs a little bit more center body, a little bit more flexibility off either end.
Class 12 purebred Simmental females, we need you in the makeup ring. Again, Class 12 purebred Simmental females, we need you in the makeup ring. Second call for Class 13. 13, start making your way up to the makeup ring.
First call, Class 7, Charolais females. First call, Class 7, Charolais females.
Another outstanding set of Simmental females out here. Young lady's heifer that leads off the class, just super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Stands on a big foot, a lot of substance of bone. Love the angles the heifer has. She really lays in neat through the point of her shoulders, yet opens up in a really thick top, thick and square hip. The heifers you put in motion, very fluid in terms of her movement. Young lady's heifer that comes in next, another deep rib, bold sprung female. Probably not quite the dimension down that top, but a heifer, again, you put her in motion, gets out, really covers her track. Got a lot of look and eye appeal from the side. Red heifer that comes in third, a heifer I appreciate for her condition the heifer's in. She's really fresh and feminine up through that front end. A female as you get behind her, not quite the dimension down that top through that quarter, but a female really got a lot of future, super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Baldy heifer that comes in next, a deep rib, easy fleshing female, not quite as extended out through that front end, not quite as fluid in terms of her movement. Young man's heifer comes next, another deep rib, bold sprung heifer that as you get behind her, just gets a little narrower at her pins and flatter through her quarter. Black heifer that comes next, another good heifer that gets out, covers her track, maybe not quite the feminine and extension out through that front end, just like to square up off those hind legs. The heifer that completes the class, another female is very straight lined and nice balance, just simply like to power up in terms of muscle and volume.
And placings for Class 11 purebred Simmental heifers are as follows. First place goes entry number 121, NXT Lady May J113, exhibited by Grace Lemonager from Fairbury, Illinois. Second place goes entry number 122, EEG Surrenders Clementine 057J, exhibited by Brooklyn Curtin, Oxford, Iowa. Third place goes entry number 116, Winslow Ruby Red, exhibited by Paisley Mumford from Dayton, Pennsylvania. Fourth place goes to entry number 113, exhibited by Addison Bartlow from Monticello, Illinois. Fifth place goes to entry number 123, exhibited by Reed Barker from Kendalldaleville, Indiana. And in sixth place in that class goes to entry number 118, exhibited by Carson Oliver from Bellevue, Florida. Seventh place goes to entry number 119, exhibited by Landon Clark, Gainesville, Georgia. Congratulations. Now entering the ring is Class 12 in your purebred Simmental heifer show. We do need Class 13 in the makeup ring. Again, Class 13 purebred Simmentals in the makeup ring, and first call for Class 14.
We've had a really nice way to get started here on the Charolais Junior Show with these calves, and I always love looking at calves this time of year. You know, those big bred heifers are starting to show their age a little bit, and the calves are easy, right? They're ready to go. They got fresh hair. You know, once they've kind of seen the bright lights of town, they're glad to be there. So it's kind of fun to look at baby calves this time of year. You know, I think that kind of as we look at these cattle, and you can kind of see there's a decent swath of maturity differential from our oldest heifer farthest to my left down here to kind of a summer-born deal. And I think that in between them, there's lots of good cattle. You know, I think that there's probably some differences amongst these 4 class winners, and that's certainly to be expected. You know, I think that in terms of the logic to this division, I think that you can kind of come at it in a couple different directions, and I try to drive it at least up the middle amongst the approaches. You know, I think that you can kind of look at these cattle in terms of where they are today or where they're going, and certainly try to kind of make some projections about how these cattle will look this time of year next year. And I do think that maturity and time is just going to be the friend of our first class winner. I think just good fronted, good built kind of a heifer that's more than appropriate in terms of muscle and center body, one that just gets better with time and maturity. You know, I think out here maybe she doesn't overwhelm you in terms of mass or dimension relative to some of her contemporaries, but a beautiful back leg on that one. I think one that's going to be really fun for this young lady to continue to feed on. We've got you know, the heifer that comes out of that next class, and you know, she's one that I think that, like I said, first impressions are her friend. She's paints a nice silhouette from the side. Gentleman does a nice job of getting her presented out here. She was one that we talked about. Maybe you could kind of nickel and dime her in terms of some forerib things, kind of how she's built there in the top side of her tail head. But I still think good cattle. You know, I think that the problem child, I'll admit, out here for me is this little heifer that comes out of that February class. I see the good in this one, and you know, I guess it kind of depends on, again, your perspective. She's super big-footed, certainly one that you can appreciate just in terms of her youthfulness and how green she is. You know, she's one that, even with that said, and even with the understanding that she gives up quite a bit of just pounds and power out here, she is a little harsher in her forerib. She maybe doesn't square up perfectly in behind her shoulder blade and how she sends that into her upper hip, but I think one that, you know, just time again is her friend. You know, I think the one that looks ready and looks like the contender out here is the young lady's heifer out of our last class. Does a nice job of getting her presented. Good bodied kind of a heifer, super broody, I think is just the right way to describe her. Like I said, she's got some chest. She's maybe not perfect in how she's built out of her hip, but man, one walk behind those cattle and she is extremely powerful in terms of her upper hip, and that's kind of what we are here to kind of expect out of the Charolais breed. They should impart some power into future generations and not just be white Angus. You know, and then we've got some complementing second place cattle over here that I think are really nice and certainly contenders for that reserve champion honor. I'm gonna kind of set the mic down, take one more little look at them, and I'll be honest, I don't know that the two that I'm gonna pick are gonna just be complete clones of each other, and I think that's okay. It takes different kinds, and you can like different kinds. Let's give these kids a nice round of applause for their hard work, and I'll show you the two I like.
Congratulations to your champion calf in your Charolais show. To entry number 25, BDCC AGRF White Claw 128K, exhibited by Alexis Miley of Huntington, Pennsylvania. And congratulations to your reserve calf champion to entry number 17, Dunk Lizzo 204K, exhibited by Hadley Dunklaw of Wayne, Nebraska. Entry number 17, Dunk Lizzo 204K, exhibited by Hadley Dunklaw of Wayne, Nebraska, is also your champion, bred and owned for your calf champion division.
Really a big, powerful set of April females out here in our Simmental side. Heifer that leads off, just massive. Heifer is super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Big foot, stands on a lot of substance of bone. Love her in terms of her udder placement and teat and all udder quality. You look at her from the side, she's got that eloquent look up through that front end, lays in neat through the point of her shoulders, yet expressive down that top through her quarter. Love her in terms of her softness and overall broodiness. Just extremely elite female. Heifer that comes in second, really straight in her lines, not quite as extended out through that front end. Another female's really soft design and gets out and covers her track. Heifer that comes in third, another straight line, really a lot of balance and overall eye appeal. Maybe not quite the power in terms of dimension or rib as the two heifers that lead off the class. Baldy heifer that comes in next, another straight line female that maybe like to give a shot more dimension through that pins and see her have a little more lower stifle. Young ladies heifer that comes in next, another deep rib, bold sprung individual. Like to free her up in terms of her movement. The black heifer that comes in next, another straight line, nice balanced female, just not quite the power in terms of muscle and volume. The young ladies heifer that completes the class is going to make a nice brood cow. Just like to free her up in terms of her movement off those hind legs.
Second call, Class 7, Charolais female. Second call, Class 7, Charolais females to the makeup arena. Attention in the barns, don't forget steer exhibitors. Your weight cards are due immediately. Entry number 98 and 99 among others. Once again, all steer exhibitors, your weighback cards are due immediately, or else you will not be able to participate in tomorrow's show.
Places in Class 12 purebred Simmental heifers are as followed. First place goes to entry number 127, BCII Annie 01J, exhibited by Matthew Coverman from Milford, Ohio. Second place goes to entry number 129, Waco Lady Lucy's 423J, exhibited by Delaney Truback from Knightstown, Indiana. Third place goes to entry number 131, Welsh Vena 13J, exhibited by Landon Clark, Gainesville, Georgia. Fourth place goes to entry number 128, exhibited by Aubrey Rice from Huntington, Indiana. Fifth place goes to entry number 133, Riley Sutterth from Kawab, North Carolina. Sixth place goes to entry number 199, exhibited by Caleb Crane from Mounds in Illinois. Seventh place goes to entry number 132, exhibited by Montana Boatwright from Franklin, North Carolina. Congratulations. Now in the ring is Class 13, purebred Simmental heifers.
Well, we kind of got an apple and an orange out here in our November class, and I think that the young ladies heifer that we opt to or have out here to start with is just a nice brood cow, good-bodied, very easy keeping, obviously appropriate in terms of weight per day of age. I think she's one that, in terms of being a show heifer, maybe a little bit plainer from her shoulder forward, maybe a little plainer in terms of the design of her hip and her hind leg. But boy, in terms of being a brood cow and having some extra shape and some body. Young lady's got a really nice foundation female there. Obviously, total opposite kind of heifer that comes in the second position. She's long and extended, really lean from her shoulder forward. She's maybe one that's, and I like cattle that are presented a little bit more athletically. She's maybe one that could use a little bit more show ring bloom and cover to come out here and really compete, but certainly one that you can appreciate in terms of her levelness and extension.
Class 14 purebred Simmental heifers, please be making your way to the makeup ring. Class 14 purebred Simmental heifers, and first call for Class 15 purebred Simmental heifers.
Third and final call, Class 7, Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 7, Charolais females. This is first call, Class 8, Charolais. First call, Class 8, Charolais females. Results of Class 5 in your Charolais Junior Show. In first place, entry number 29, FXFR Bats Impress Whip 1114J, exhibited by Peyton Taylor of Lenoir, North Carolina. In second place, entry number 28, DDC Natalie Prisca J65, exhibited by Lily Downey of Prattville, Alabama. Now exhibiting in the ring is class number 6 of your Charolais Junior Show. Second call, Class 8 Charolais females. Second call, Class 8 Charolais females to the makeup arena.
Last and final call for Class 14 purebred Simmental heifers need to be in the makeup ring. All Class 14 heifers need to be in the makeup ring. And last call for Class 15 purebred heifers need to be in the makeup ring.
Another really strong class in our April division of the Simmental show. Young lady's heifer that leads off, just a powerful heifer that's super sound in terms of her feet and legs. The heifer, as you get behind her, really lays in neat through the point of her shoulders. Tremendous amount of thickness down that top. You love her in terms of her sweep, in terms of that rib shape. A heifer, as you put in motion, really gets out and covers her track. Beautiful udder development. Going to have a nice teat size and spacing. Just a powerful brood cow that's super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Love the condition of heifer in seconds in. Love her in terms of her extension out through that front end. Just simply not quite the power in terms of that hip. Another females you put in motion, super sound and very athletic in terms of her movement. Heifer that comes in third, another female's very straight in her lines, plenty of balance and eye appeal. As you get behind her, not quite as powerful in terms of her rib and overall muscle shape. Same goes for the heifer that comes in next, another female that gets out and covers her track, maybe not quite as extended up through that front end, not quite the depth and spring of rib. Heifer that comes next, the baldy female, really going to make a nice brood cow, a female that get out and cover her track, not quite as extended up through that front end. Black heifer that comes in next, another straight line, nice balanced female, just not quite as powerful in terms of her shape down that top or through her lower stifle. The heifer that completes the class is going to make a nice brood cow, just simply like to lengthen her out up through that front end.
I think an interesting trio to just sort on and evaluate and really kind of pick apart that finds their way to the top end of this class. And I'll be honest, I think there's pieces and parts of each one of these heifers on the top end of the class that I love. But there's parts of each one of these heifers that I'd like to see as maybe a mating or a breeding opportunity to maybe modify in future generations. I guess the one that strikes me as having the best combination of some elite pieces and some pieces of balance and quality that really hit me hard, while still acknowledging what I might like to change about her, is the gentleman's heifer that I opt to start with. Her hip and her hind leg are beautiful. She steps down with so much confidence and comfort in terms of the design of that hip and hind leg, super level in terms of how she matches her shoulder blade to the top of her hip. And I love just kind of how she balances up everywhere from her forerib back. From her forerib forward, that's where I'd like to maybe make some modifications. I'd like to make her a little more robust there in terms of her forerib. And when we get her trucking around the ring, she dogs up front a lot more than I think that her skeleton indicates that she should. She's laid back in that angle of her shoulder. She's squishy at the ground. I don't read anything about her on the standstill that should indicate to me that she's going to kind of labor around the ring up front, but she is. And I don't know if that's just because we're not loving all of this beautiful asphalt out here that she's getting to walk across all day long, but she's not moving up front as good as I'd like her to. But I think, you know, if we can right size that a little bit, I think there's just too much good from their back to get around her. You know, I think the kind of cream-colored heifer that comes in the second position is one that you can love in terms of her silhouette. Really attaches her neck high at the top of her shoulder blade. I read her as being a notch bigger down the top top side of her skeleton just in terms of span and dimensionality as we compare her to our class winner. She's one that maybe doesn't get around the ring with as much flexibility as I'd like to see, and I think you can see that even when she's on the stand still. She really kind of wants to get up on her tippy toes here up front, and she matches that in terms of the design of her hind leg. I call her good enough and call that functional enough to still let her quality and her balance and her overall substance get her into that second position. Man, if you like just a big, broody beef cow, you've got her here in this cream-colored heifer that comes in third. And I know that everybody's got like little weird things that they look at on cattle, but my dad always told me that ones with big, thick tails are going to be big, thick cows, and she's got a tree trunk back there, and it matches her. She's big-footed. She's got a big column of bone underneath of her, and there's times where I want to give that thick heifer the nod and call her good enough built and let her kind of run away with things. But the longer she's out here, the more she wants to open up at the top of her shoulder, the more she wants to struggle in terms of how she hits the surface. But man, in terms of one that could be really versatile in terms of breeding options, I think she's a really cool beast. I just wish we could refine her a little bit. You know, I wish this heifer that's kind of painted up would be a little bit more receptive to the show ring lifestyle. She's good-bodied, she's broody, that's a cowy kind of a deal here, really level down her top. You know, certainly one that the longer she's out here and the more she kind of relaxes, the better she looks. And I think that even when she wants to cooperate, you can read her as being just a notch plainer and coarser from her in terms of her neck, how that blends into her shoulder blade and chest. But again, in terms of power and performance, that's a really nice breeding piece for the gentleman to put back into production. You know, then I think we've got some cattle that kind of find another position that maybe there's a bit of a break in terms of just quality, and I think that they're still good cattle. They just maybe don't run up there with those show cattle that kind of precede them. You know, I think the young lady's heifer that comes in next, long-bodied and extended, maybe just a little straighter in the angle of her shoulder than I might deem ideal, but she's more nearly level down her top than is the gentleman's calf that comes in next. Wish we could level her out a little bit, and she might be able to kind of slide around that one ahead of her, because I like the extra length that she's got. Gentleman's calf that comes in next, moderate, and she's got some center body to her, a little more refined in terms of her feet and legs, maybe a little less attractive or appropriate in the design of her hip and her hind leg to maximize her step. And then the gentleman's heifer that kind of rounds things out, again, a long-bodied, big-backed one, just needs a little bit more center rib, a little bit more functionality there in terms of structural correctness.
In our Simmental show, we get these class winners out here in this division. I think it's a really strong division. Young lady's red heifer that wins the first class, beautiful in terms of her profile. I like the condition the heifer's in. A female super sound in terms of her feet and legs, and gives you an elite look from the side. Heifer that wins the second class, a heifer stands on a big foot, a lot of substance of bone, got plenty of depth and spring of rib, just a really nice heifer that's got some dimension down that top. If you want to change her, maybe extend her out through that front end, but a heifer's just got all the nice pieces, super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Heifer that wins that third class, that's my kind. A heifer's got the look. She's powerful in terms of her depth and spring of rib. She's got the quality in terms of her udder. She's like her in terms of her condition. You get behind her, she's easy, the heaviest muscled, most powerful heifer out here. Heifer that wins the third or fourth class, powerful in terms of her depth and spring of rib. A female, tremendous amount of thickness down her top through that quarter, like in terms of her udder quality. She's sound in terms of her feet and legs. Is she as extended out through that front end as a couple of other heifers? No, but she's powerful. Let's give these exhibitors a round of applause. I think the heifer that wins does so in my mind very easily.
Entry number 166, we need you in the makeup ring. Again, 166, we need you in the makeup ring.
We bring our second place in. That young lady's heifer, really sound in terms of her feet and legs. Love her in terms of her depth and spring of rib. A female's got a nice udder development and quality and spacing. A female's got some extension and femininity and a really elite look up through that front end. The young lady really does a nice job presenting her. Let's give these exhibitors a round of applause and we'll go select you a reserve division champion.
Your division champion goes to entry number 127, exhibited by Matthew Coverman from Milford, Ohio. Congratulations. And your reserve division 4 champion goes to entry number 138, exhibited by Jamie Holben from York, Nebraska. Congratulations. Now entering the ring will be Class 14 purebred Simmental heifers. We do need all Class 15 in the makeup ring and second call for Class 16.
I've got a little division over here, but I think still some nice cattle. You know, I think the young lady's younger heifer is one that we complimented in class just in terms of been really soft and easy keeping, good-bodied kind of a heifer. You know, she's one that as we get her out here amongst some other contemporaries, maybe start to pick on her a little bit in terms of how she's built in her shoulder blade, a little bit more forward there in terms of her knee, a little less coordinated in terms of the travel of her hind leg, but still like the body, like the durability that she has there. And I think we talked about the heifer that won this last class, and I love everything from her forerib back. I think she's really cool in terms of the design of her hip and her hind leg. I think she's very progressive in terms of her body depth as we get off to the side of her. She's one that we nickeled and dimed on her a little bit in terms of how she's built in that forerib, and today how she's wanting to move up front. I think that said, there's still just a little, I think, a nod of extra quality and extra eye appeal and breeding value that goes to the advantage of the gentleman's heifer. She's going to be our division champion. Let's put our hands together for him. You know, as we slide this heifer that was second in class back over into the lineup, I talked about her having some additional challenges in her own right, but she's still got a lot of good. I think really sweet-fronted, I think extremely level. She really is quite big-topped, especially as you get up on top of that one. I like the extra curvature that she's got in terms of her rib cage. You know, obviously talked about some things we might like to change in terms of the design of her shoulder blade and how she beats the surface off of her hind two. But again, called her functional enough to get around some nice heifers in her class, and I think she's still good enough to complement our class winner to be reserve champion. Let's give him a nice round as well.
First call, Class 9, Charolais females. First call, Class 9, Charolais females to the makeup arena. Congratulations to your senior calf Charolais champion. Goes to entry number 34, WGBCC Lucy's Jewel 135P, exhibited by Alex Barnard of Foosland, Illinois. Your reserve champion goes to entry number 32, GC Miss Madonna 114, exhibited by Waylon Malpin of New Bern, Tennessee. And congratulations to your bred-known senior calf Charolais champion. It goes to entry number 35, DDC Mary Rose J55, exhibited by Eliza Downey from Prattville, Alabama. Now exhibiting in the Charolais ring is class number 7.
We got a pair of big stout girls to look at in the summer class, and I think there's more similarities than these two than there are differences. I think that just in terms of muscle and dimension and power, a lot of things you can really like about these cattle. And I think both of these cattle could maybe be greened up a little bit, I guess, if I were getting a little nitpicky on that. And I think that their extra cover probably is a detriment to both of them in terms of attractiveness from their shoulder forward. And where I think this pair splits in the favor of the young lady's heifer that I like to win is how she's built and how she moves, particularly in her hock and her pastern. She's just quite a bit more flexible there as compared to her contemporary. I think also she's just got a little bit softer, more progressive sweep to her underline. I think that as an individual, she's one that I might like to refine and chisel down just in terms of how she's built in her shoulder blade, but still big, stout, broody beef cow that I think is going to have a lot of value, and this young lady puts her back into production. Like I said, a lot of similar things can be said about this gal with the birthmark on her back, and I think that she just comes in a little bit plainer package as compared to our class winner, a little crestier about her neck, maybe a little bit plainer in terms of her joint work, but still I think one that you can really like a lot of things about, a very versatile breeding option.
Results of Class 7 of your Charolais show. In first place, entry number 39, Lafrazy Viola, 21A, exhibited by Grace Lemminger from Fairbury, Illinois. In second place, entry number 38, Lafrazy Blakely, 961K, exhibited by Macy Hoig of Illinois City, Illinois. Now entering the ring is class number 8 of your Charolais Junior show. This is your second call, Class 9, Charolais females. Second call, Class 9, Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 9 Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 9 Charolais females.
Well, I think a pair of cattle that should hit you hard as having some really nice complementing factors to each other that need to find the top end of this class. And, you know, with that said, I think that, again, first impressions, like in life, job interviews, and cow shows, they matter. And I think the first impression on this heifer is really good. And I think that's due in no small part to how much time somebody spent on the wash rack getting this one really sparkly white. And I think she just hits you so hard out here, and just in terms of being shown and whatnot, I think she demands your attention. And past that, she's really nice. I think she's one whose neck attaches so nice and femininely at the top of her shoulder blade, sends that back into a super long and level hip. You know, she's one that I don't know that she knocks you over as you get in behind her and read her from the rear three-quarter with dimensionality, but I think she's more than good enough. And I think that in terms of getting her trucking around the ring, she's still quite flexible as she hits the surface. If I'm going to get a little picky on her, I wish we could refine her in terms of her head. She's a little Roman nose for my taste, and she's got just a touch of chest, but I think that she's really, really nice. And I think that the heifer that comes in the second position complements her well. She, too, long-bodied, really extended heifer that's super flexible at the surface. I think if you get up on top of these cattle, she probably opens up with more genuine width right in behind her shoulder blade. Unfortunately, she doesn't use that extra muscle to be her advantage in terms of keeping her top up. She gets a little easy in behind her shoulder, you know, despite that advantage in terms of dimension. Flexible, extended, long-bodied kind of a heifer, maybe just runs a little bit downhill relative to our class winner. Good-bodied heifer comes in the third position. She's very, you know, conventional, I guess, in terms of her frame size. She's been an easy keeper as well. You know, I think that if I'm going to get a little picky on her, I might like to dial back the condition on her, might like to refine her from her shoulder blade forward. I think as we get her rolling around the ring, gets a little bit straight off either end. Total opposite kind of creature is here in the fourth position. Long-bodied, extended heifer, really, really level in terms of her lines. I wish we could make her a shot deeper bodied, or take a rib out of her, and maybe she would look a little bit little deeper bodied, because she's so long, a little uncoordinated in terms of the travel of her hind leg. Good bodied heifer comes in here next. Certainly one you can appreciate to have some extra foot and some bone and some substance underneath of her. Unfortunately, a little bit bold in the design of her shoulder blade, not uncoordinated in terms of how she wants to travel off of her hind two. Young lady's heifer comes in next, just at a kind of a weight per day of age disadvantage relative to her contemporaries. Still a long-bodied, extended, really easy traveling heifer. Just wish we could kind of make her a little bit more substantial in terms of her bone work, and maybe match that up top in terms of her skeletal dimension. Young lady's heifer that kind of rounds things out for us is the total opposite. She is big boned and she is big backed and shapely. Unfortunately, she just doesn't move very good. I wish that she got out and kind of floated out here, and certainly could entertain a switch there. But a really nice group of heifers with a really nice pair up there on the top end.
First call, Class 10, Charolais females. First call, Class 10, Charolais females. Results of Class 8 of your Charolais Junior Show. In first place, entry number 42, PL Lady Wilma, exhibited by Owen Weisinger of Fort Madison, Iowa. In second place, entry number 43, LJR Miss Wrangler Town 761J, exhibited by Riley Rhodes of Carlinville, Illinois. In third place, entry number 45, William Malpin. In fourth place, entry number 46, Maddie Harward. In fifth place, entry number 44, Hayden Nagel. In sixth place, entry number 47, Sage Rebels.
Really a great class out here in our Simmental show. These four out here I think are very elite. They're all sound in terms of their feet and legs. The most complete heifer, I think, starts the class. I love her in terms of her femininity and an extension up through that front end. She looks like a cow. You look at her udder development. I love her in terms of their udder quality and teat spacing. Heifers you put in motion, gets out, covers her track. She's a wide tracking female. Love her in terms of her dimension through that rib. Just the feminine, broody cow that puts it all together. Heifer that comes in second, beautiful up through that front end. Not near as power as a heifer that leads off the class, but a power female that's got a lot of look. I like the udder development and the quality and the deepness and boldness, but she just simply is not as powerful as the heifer that leads off. Heifer that comes in third is the most powerful heifer out here. To me, she gets a little shorter and coarser up through that front end. Not quite as feminine, but super stout, super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Just simply like to extend her out through that front end. Heifer that comes in fourth, I'd love to have a pasture full of these. They're just so complete and sound in terms of her feet and legs, so feminine up through that front end. Just simply not near the power down that top or through that quarter. But this is an outstanding class. I'm sure those heifers have won many state fairs, and when we even look at the bottom of this class, that's a good heifer. So you're in deep water out here. Young lady's heifer that comes in next, another straight line, nice balanced female, not quite as smooth through the point of her shoulders. Young man's black heifer that comes next, another deep rib, bold sprung individual, not quite as neat through the point of her shoulders, not quite the dimension through that hip. The heifer that comes in next, just a straight line, nice, complete female. You like to see her have more depth and spring a rib. Young lady's heifer that comes next, another heifer stands on a big foot, a lot of substance of bone, just simply a little more open through the point of her shoulders. The black heifer that's next, another straight line female that gets out, takes a good stride, like her in terms of her udder development, just simply like to power her up. The two heifers that complete the class are sound, going to make nice brood cows, just maybe needing a little more quality up through that front end.
We've got a division selection over here in the Charolais show, and two cattle that I think are very different in terms of type and kind. Complemented both heifers out of the younger class for being really broody and stout and dimensional. Maybe nitpick them a little bit just in terms of attractiveness and balance pieces as well. I think the cattle out of the May class were also a really nice pair of cattle that have some extra kind of X factor, have some extra soundness, probably have a little bit more eye appeal and presence out here. And for those reasons, I think that they make a really nice pair to represent this division in the Grand Drive. My preference will be the young man's heifer out of the second class, and then complemented by the second place heifer out of the same class. Let's give those guys a nice round of applause.
And your intermediate Charolais champion female out of class number 8 goes to entry number 42, PL Lady Wilma, exhibited by Owen Weisinger of Fort Madison, Iowa. Your reserve intermediate champion female, also from class number 8, goes to entry number 43, LJR Miss Wranglertown 761J, exhibited by Riley Rhodes of Carlinville, Illinois. Now entering the ring is class number 9. This is your second call, class 10, Charolais females. Second call, class 10, Charolais females.
Placings in class number 14 of your purebred Simmental Heifer show are as followed. First place goes to entry number 141, KBL J-Boy Scarlet Dream 12-1J, exhibited by Carter Hodge, Good Hope, Illinois. Second place goes to entry number 150, LKCC Miss Christille's Remedy Y44J, exhibited by Morgan Jackson from Kaufman, Texas. Third place goes to entry number 155, 4B Miss Honey Butter 08J, exhibited by Sarah Solon from Dunlap, Iowa. Fourth place goes to entry number 160, Rockin' P Wild Thing J018, exhibited by Wyatt Phillips from Maysville, Kentucky. Fifth place goes to entry number 144, exhibited by Pepper Elmore from Walkimus, Oklahoma. Sixth place goes to entry number 145, exhibited by Graham Dickerson from Hope, Indiana. Seventh place goes to entry number 153, exhibited by Kaylin Chambers from Ringgold, Georgia. Eighth place goes to entry number 157, exhibited by Lola Petticord from Franklin, Indiana. Ninth place goes to entry number 142, exhibited by Ty Dratch from Pontiac, Illinois. 10th place goes to entry number 146, exhibited by Kathy Lehman from Shelby, Ohio. 11th place goes to entry number 156, exhibited by Miranda Rathrell from Falls City, Nebraska. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Now in the ring is class 15 purebred Simmental heifers. We do need class 16 in the makeup ring. Again, we need class 16 in the makeup ring.
think an interesting class, and again, one that you could have mixed opinions and reviews on, but again, kind of in a time when you're just not faced with just an obvious place to go, you got to step back to which ones are more your kind. And I just love how dimensional this heifer is that I like to win. She profiles up with plenty of classiness, and I think that she's certainly one that's got a ton of foot and bone underneath of her. But I think her class-winning advantage is just that rear three-quarter view. It's tough to make these cattle truly dimensional, and I think you can read that just in terms of her skeleton, that she's all there. You know, what comes sometimes with one that's got a little bit more dimension is just a little bit more challenge getting it rolled around the ring. And when she hits the surface, she's just a little tentative there off of her back pasterns. And I do wish that we gave her a little bit more flexibility at the ground, but I think that from there up and from there forward, I think there's a lot of good things about that heifer. You know, I think that if you prefer the really neat-necked one that's a little bit more, you know, forgive me to use a sheep term, wedge-made, I guess, in terms of her design from the side, I can understand why you'd contemplate the flip-flop of the pair. I think this heifer is long-fronted. I think that she's one that can give you an impression of quality and presentation as well, and she's the polar opposite of our class winner in terms of being extremely squishy in terms of her pasterns, almost to the point that it's hindered her in terms of the attractiveness and the design of her hind leg. She's so soft there at the ground that she's a little uncoordinated in how she travels off of her hind two, causes her to drop in her pins. You know, I think that as I read these two cattle and the differential that was made for me, it's just that difference in dimension. I think she's stout enough as you get right behind her. I think right there in her forerib is where I give the advantage to the stouter heifer. But again, if you like that heifer to win, I can understand your rationale for doing so. You know, the gentleman's heifer that comes in the third position is one that as he gets her stopped and put together, she's got pieces of quality and balance that you can really appreciate about her. She's really long neck. She's really free of excess skin at the base of her throat and into her brisket, and she's got some shape to her, especially as you kind of get up on top of her. I think that one trip around the ring, though, you've got to appreciate she's a little shorter coupled, and she matches that by being a notch straighter in the angle of her shoulder, and she's a notch shorter out of her hip, and subsequently just doesn't get out and stride out with the same length and flexibility as I might deem to be perfectly ideal. Big stout gal kind of rounds out our class here, really round in terms of the shape of her rib cage, has plenty of foot and bone underneath of her, just a little plainer made from her shoulder forward, maybe a little bit straighter there as well, but still I think a very useful individual for the young lady.
First call, Class 11, Charolais females. First call, Class 11, Charolais females. Results from class number 9 of your Charolais Junior Show. In first place, entry number 54, Hinshaw Easy Pro, J6, exhibited by Levi Hinshaw of Secor, Illinois. In second place, entry number 55, DF Impressed, J41, exhibited by Hannah Wooten of Star, South Carolina. In third place, entry number 48, Cody Clary. In fourth place, entry number 52, Catherine No.
Really another excellent set of Simmental females out here. The differences I see, the two heifers we're leading off with, really angular and feminine up through that front end. Both of them are super sound. Probably a little level design female that leads off. I love her in terms of her rib shape, her boldness. Female is really expressive down that top, still lays in neat through the point of her shoulder. Gives you that killer look from the side and just super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Heifer that comes in second, another heifer stands on a big foot, a lot of substance of bone, probably not quite that dimension right behind her shoulders. Love her in terms of her feminine and extension out through that front end. She's sound, soft design, just going to make a tremendous brood cow. Heifer that comes in third, a heifer gets out, covers her track. Really a long-bodied individual, probably not quite as smooth through the point of her shoulders, but a powerful heifer in terms of overall muscle and volume. Heifer that comes in next, another female that really stands on a big foot, a lot of substance of bone, gets a little more open through the point of her shoulders. The heifer that comes next, another female you appreciate for her depth and spring of rib, gets a little shorter up through that front end. Heifer that comes next, a young lady's female, is really extended and long out through that front end. The heifers you get behind her gets a little narrower at her pins and flatter down her top and quarter. Young lady's heifer in next, another female that's going to make a nice brood cow, really extended out through that front end, just like to power up in terms of dimension down that top. The heifer comes next, another easy fleshing. Female's got plenty of depth and spring of rib, just like to extend her out through that front end. Young lady's heifer that comes in next, another female's a moderate frame, bold sprung individual, gets a little shorter up through that front end. The red heifer that comes next, another female that gets out and covers her track, just like to make her a little more quality up through that front end. The heifer that completes the class is really a straight line, nice balanced female, just like to put more quality up through that front end.
And placings in class number 15 of your purebred Simmental Heifer show are as followed. First place goes to entry number 163, KMEM Caesar Jewel 106J, exhibited by Josie Phillips from Maysville, Kentucky. Second place goes to entry number 165, CLAC Black Satin 341J, exhibited by Chase Harker, Hope, Indiana. Third place goes to entry number 161, exhibited by Mallory Yoakley from Monville, Missouri. Fourth place goes to entry number 170, exhibited by Ryan Van Han from White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Fifth place goes to entry number 173, exhibited by Alyssa Miller from Lanark, Illinois. Sixth place goes to entry number 171, Lillian Uger from Chase Bands, Illinois. Seventh place goes to entry number 172, exhibited by Megan Brown from Greenville, Texas. Eighth place goes to entry number 177, exhibited by Casey Sedgwick from Sheridan, Indiana. Ninth place goes to entry number 176, exhibited by Caitlin Sherman from LaGrange, Indiana. 10th place goes to entry number 178, Callie Grain from Mounds, Illinois. 11th place goes to entry number 175, Claire Beth Peterson from Nancy, Kentucky. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Now in the ring is Class 16 purebred Simmental Heifers.
I think a nice pair of kind of conflicting or contrasting heifers that need to find their way to the top end of this class. And I think that the really broad-skulled one is just a little bit more my speed. I think that one that, in terms of draping some extra muscle and dimension over a really square skeleton, it does a lot of things that I personally appreciate. And I think that if you're going to get nitpicky on her, she's maybe one that her added maturity is starting to show a little bit from her shoulder blade forward, maybe not as whistle-necked or jet-fronted as maybe the heifer that follows her in the class, but from there on back, I think you can appreciate that she's been a very easy to maintain kind of a heifer, and her rib cage has allowed her to do so. I think that if you like one that's big and long and extended and certainly quite a bit sweeter fronted, you can get to reading some really good things in this heifer that comes in the second position. Super flexible at the surface, one that you can really get to liking some extension and some levelness that she offers. One trip behind those cattle, though, I think you've got to read her as funneling to her base, kind of a little bit lighter there in terms of muscle through the lower portion of her quarter, particularly relative to our class winner, but love the extra silhouette and presence that she brings to the table. Gentleman's done a really nice job with his heifer and just gets into a tough class, really big-backed and thick-ended, really maternal in terms of the shape of her rib cage. I think she gets just a touch straight, the angle of her shoulder, and you can read that in terms of how she splays out up front and up through her knee. But certainly one that you can like in terms of her breeding versatility, should impart plenty of dimension to future calf crops for this young exhibitor.
Third and final call, Class 11, Charolais females. Third and final call, Class 11, Charolais females to the Bank-Up Arena immediately. Attention in the barns, Elizabeth Coleman. If you would come to the announcer's table in Broadbent Arena, we have something that belongs to you. Once again, Elizabeth Coleman to the announcer's table immediately.
Well, another division in the Charolais show that's just two classes, but I think two class winners that are awfully nice. Two cattle that have plenty of dimension and power. Again, that's what we kind of expect from this continental breed to bring to the table to future generations, and I appreciate that both these cattle do that. I think that the gentleman's calf out of the first class is one that, you could love just in terms of the extra substance that she's got. I think that she's one that is just so genuine in terms of that extra dimension that she brings to the table. And I think that if you pick on her, it's at the surface. She's just a little hesitant there, maybe not as long-reaching up front to match. And then I think that the heifer out of the second class is one that, like I said, just very, brood cow oriented, very substantial, and I think you can kind of read that, just how big and square her head is, and she matches that from there on back. Dinged on her a little bit in class for being maybe not just the most whistle-fronted one. She's got some extra bark on her, but still, I think she paints a really nice picture of quality, and she's my preference. She'll be our division champion. Let's congratulate that young man. I think the real decision to be made is for reserve, and it's between two cattle that are just totally different in terms of type and kind. And I think, the young ladies heifer complimented our division champion and maybe contrasted our division champion. She's super long-necked, really, really extended in terms of her type and kind, and hits the surface with so much flexibility. She's one that if you call her stout enough, you probably really, really like this one. She's one, though, that I think that if you read her in terms of her forerib and you kind of read her lack of projection in terms of how she drops into her stifle, that's kind of where I question her if she has enough muscle. And then the other question mark is if the other heifer that wins the other class is sound enough. And so, everybody gets to kind of make their own lines and makes their own personal preferences. Like I said, whenever I get into a tough spot in terms of livestock selection, I go with the one that just hits me as a little bit more my kind, and I like them a little bit stouter, and I prefer the young man's heifer out of the first class. Let's give them a nice round of applause.
And your junior Charolais champion female goes to entry number 57, Boy Smokin' Monte 200J, exhibited by Carter Hogue of Good Hope, Illinois. Your reserve champion goes to entry number 54, Hinshaw Easy Pro J6, exhibited by Levi Hinshaw of Secor, Illinois. Entry number 54 was also your champion, Brennan-owned junior female. Congratulations, Charolais exhibitors. This is your first call all champion and reserve champion division Charolais winners. Once again, first call all champion and reserve champion division Charolais winners.
Really another great class out here in our Simmental show. These Januaries are heavy bred. This female that leads off, just beautiful in terms of her rib shape. Still has a femininity and extension up through that front end. She lays in neat through the point of her shoulders, yet expressive down that top, thick and square through that hip. Like her in terms of her udder quality and development and teat size, and a super sound package. Heifer that comes in second's another eloquent fronted female. She's really extended. A female, not quite the expression right behind her shoulder. Love her in terms of her rib shape and her forerib. A female really super sound when you put her out in motion and very extended. Heifer that comes in next, a deep rib, bowl sprung individual, maybe not quite as clean up through that front end, but super sound in terms of her feet and legs. I love the udder quality and development. Going to make a nice brood cow. Red cow that comes in next, another female that's got plenty of depth and spring of rib, not quite the extension and femininity out through that front end, not quite as square in terms of her hind legs. Heifer that comes in next, another really a nice balanced, deep rib, bold sprung female, not quite the muscle mass down that top or through her quarter, not quite the neatness right through the point of her shoulders. Red heifer that comes in next, another female that gets out, covers her track. A heifer is maybe not quite the width, the base, and natural thickness as the heifers above her. Black heifer comes next, a moderate frame individual. It's going to make a nice brood cow. You'd like to level her up from hooks to pins. The red heifer that completes the class is going to make a nice brood cow, just not quite the quality up through that front end.
And placings in Class 16 purebred Simmental heifers are as follows. First place goes to entry number 190, KC2 Miss Sonera 74J, exhibited by Chloe Clark from Muldrow, Oklahoma. Second place goes to entry number 189, STCC TFG Rory 005J, exhibited by Cameron Clapp from Montezuma, Indiana. Third place goes to entry number 185, exhibited by Aubrey Neal from Osgood, Indiana. Fourth place goes to entry number 182, exhibited by Carly Coulterman from Garland, Nebraska. Fifth place goes to entry number 183, exhibited by Grayson Welsh from Bandysville, Illinois. Sixth place goes to entry number 184, exhibited by Shelby Kander from Weaverville, North Carolina. Seventh place goes to entry number 180, exhibited by Delaney Bates from Soywang, Michigan. Eighth place goes to entry number 181, exhibited by Nicholas Wiley, New Harmony, Indiana. Congratulations to those exhibitors. We are now selecting your Division 5 champion heifer. We do need Class 17 and all division champion and reserve division champion purebred Simmental heifers to the makeup ring. Again, all champion and division champion purebred Simmental heifers to the makeup ring.
Second call all champion and reserve champion division winners of the Charolais show to the makeup arena. Once again, second call. All champion and reserve champion Charolais females to the makeup arena. Correction in your placings, your junior bred and owned Charolais female goes to entry number 57, exhibited by Carter Hogue of Good Hope, Illinois.
Another great lineup when we get our class winners out here in this junior yearling division. That heifer that wins the March division, just a beautiful profiling female. A heifer super sound in terms of her feet and legs. She's really angular and feminine and extended up through that front end. A heifer, as you get behind her, still lays in neat through the point of her shoulders, yet really expressive down that top. You like the udder development, a heifer that just checks all the boxes and's got an elite look about her. Heifer that wins the middle class, just a beautiful profiling, moderate frame female, sound in terms of her feet and legs. Love her in terms of her femininity and the smoothness up through that front end. A heifer is really a level design, really soft-bellied female that's super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Just an awesome female. It's got an elite look. Heifer that wins the January class, again, a powerful individual. A heifer is tremendously deep rib, bold sprung, and still got some look up through that front end. You want to get a little critical on them and maybe like to shorten her teeth, so that's getting really critical on a very outstanding individual. Let's give them a round of applause and we'll go select your champion.
Attention in the barns. The Belted Galloway show will begin at approximately 3 p.m. Once again, the Belted Galloways to begin at 3 p.m.
We got a nice class that is also, I believe, a division championship as well. And I think, two cattle that need to go together just in terms of body type and build. And I think that they're the two more feminine fronted, longer reaching cattle. And I just read a little bit more substance in the gentleman's heifer. She is super duper long bodied and really extended in terms of her type and kind. And I think she hits the surface with an appropriate amount of flexibility. I think that if you're going to get picky on her, you read through a little bit of the hair and you start to question just how bold she is right behind her shoulder blade and how bold she then carries that into her forerib. But I think in terms of just painting a nice silhouette of quality, I think she does a lot of really nice things. Super appreciative of the young lady for having her heifer right on track, maybe a little early on track to getting her to have her calf by her second birth date. Obviously one that is maintaining herself really well into the final stages of her pregnancy as well. Hits the surface with that extra flexibility. She's big-footed and big bone. She's one, too, that as I kind of evaluate her and read her true body depth, I think that she wants to kind of get a little concave there in her forerib as well. She has the advantage of being just super deep in terms of kind of where that baby's currently positioned, getting ready in terms of where she is in her phase of gestation. And I wonder just how much true internal dimension she might have as we kind of read her in terms of where her rib cage is projected out of her spine. But I think in terms of being moderate and sound at the ground, I think one that you can really like a lot of things about. And I do think that extra extension and flexibility is to her distinct advantage over the kind of cream-colored heifer that comes in the third position. I think granted, though, this heifer has a little bit more muscle to her, and I do think that she's a little bit burlier, I guess, in terms of her build. And I think that as we get her tracking around the ring, though, she gets a little forward in the angle of her shoulder, wants to splay out up front, just doesn't have that same flexibility as we find in the cattle that precede her, but I like the extra muscle that she's got, and she's got some extra presence. This gal here is one that you can really appreciate just in terms of how big-bodied she is, and I think that she's really a big top, thick-ended heifer. She's really soft at the ground, particularly for one that has some extra muscle. And I think that she's probably one that's just a little bit past her prime in terms of looking like a showgirl out here. She's a little bit plainer from her shoulder forward. She started to fill in with some extra fat down there in terms of her chest, and all of that extra weight has kind of caused her to be a little bit less functional and flexible in terms of how she bends up front and how she hits the surface up front. But you can appreciate that one for what she brings to the table. Young lady's heifer that comes in next, a little bit longer bodied, obviously a touch leaner in terms of her composition. She's one, though, that I question a notch just in terms of her flexibility, in terms of her shoulder blade. She's one that I'd like to lay back. And she's a pretty big gal. Might like to kind of tone her down a little bit there just in terms of her mature frame size. Cream-colored heifer comes in next. Good-bodied, certainly one that looks like she's been an easy feeder, easy to maintain. Just wants to labor there up front, doesn't want to get out and go and drive off of her back wheels quite as good as I might deem ideal either. Then a pair of cattle that kind of round things out for us today, obviously at a comparative disadvantage in terms of weight per day of age and performance relative to their contemporaries. I side with the young lady's heifer for being just a little bit more attractive in the design of her hip and her hind leg relative to the comparison. Nice class for these young folks to kind of anchor out for us.
Results of Class 11 in your Charolais show. In first place, entry number 67, RDK Abigail Ashton, 140p, exhibited by Jail Downey of Prattville, Alabama. In second place, entry number 66, OBG Miss America 2021, exhibited by Justin Teets of Lost River, West Virginia. In third place, entry number 62, Anna Link. Fourth place, entry number 65, Chloe Briggs. Fifth place, entry number 64, Alyssa Meyer. Sixth place, entry number 71, Abby Dunn. Seventh place, entry number 63, Maddie Harward. Eighth place, entry number 68, Garrett Graves. Your first and second place were also your senior champion and reserve senior champions. Now entering the ring is a selection of your champion overall Charolais female.
Really a nice single entry pair. Both Septembers, beautiful udder. I love the quality and the levelness and the teat size. Super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Love the condition the cow's in. Just very angular and feminine up through that front end. A lot of quality, super sound in terms of her feet and legs. Plenty of dimension down that top through that quarter. You look at the September baby, just super sound. Got a lot of look and eye appeal. A lot of future in that pair.
Congratulations to entry 141, as he is your Division 5 champion. He is exhibited by Carter Hodge from Good Hope, Illinois. And your reserve champion Division 5 goes to entry number 190, exhibited by Chloe Clark from Monroe, Oklahoma. Congratulations. Also, congratulations to first in Class 17 and automatic Division 6 champion to entry number 192, WHF Andy 368H, exhibited by Eli Mundy from Speedwell, Tennessee. Congratulations. Now entering the ring will be the selection of your grand champion purebred Simmental Heifer. We need all those division champions and reserve division champions in the makeup ring for your selection of your grand champion purebred Simmental Heifer.
Tension on the ground. Charmaine Janelle Kendall to the announcer stand in Broadbent Arena. Once again, Charmaine Janelle Kendall to the announcer stand in Broadbent Arena. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce our judge here in the Charolais Junior Show, Miss Jara Settles. She grew up on a purebred Angus and man-and-Jew operation in northeast Nebraska. She was a member of the Reserve National Champion Collegiate Judging Team at Kansas State University and received an animal science degree. She graduated from Washburn University School of Law and serves the Livestock Marketing Association as General Counsel and Vice President of Risk Mitigation. She and her husband, Barrett Carlisle, operate the northern location of Diamond Sea Club Lambs, and she continues to raise cattle with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Sarah Settles for judging the Charolais here this afternoon.
Well, certainly it's been an absolute pleasure to work with your young people and evaluate your white cattle this afternoon. I grew up showing a different breed than these, but did dabble in the Chars kind of towards the end of my show career, and had the opportunity to kind of help a young lady from my home state kind of get her own Charolais operation off the ground. And so the breed's always had kind of a special place in my heart because of that. I'm also fortunate to work in Kansas City, and so for a long time actually was kind of neighbors with the association headquarters before our offices moved, and so have the pleasure of kind of bumping into and working with your current and former breed representatives and staff people. And I work for a nonprofit trade association that's membership based as well, and so I know the challenges and the fun that comes with those jobs. And so my sincere appreciation for the help and just kind of getting this thing really put together, a nice show, and for these young people that the Charolais staff did out here. I know that they've kind of done it on a little bit short numbers, and they've done it flawlessly, so my sincere appreciation to them for having me come on out here. I think that in terms of the cattle, I think they've been really nice, and I think from a very competitive heifer calf division where we had two different kinds to kind of pick from, all the way to these older cattle that we're kind of getting ready to send into production. We've had really nice ones. I'm not going to tell you that they all look the exact same. I think that there's different kinds, and I think it takes different strokes for different folks, and that's perfectly fine. And I'll be honest, I like a kind. I like stout cattle that are still built right and still look like, if it's a heifer, it needs to look like a girl. But I can recognize that everybody likes a different kind, and everybody's metrics move a little bit depending upon where you put your preferences. And so with that said, I think that regardless of what these young people brought to us today, they've been courteous, they've been extremely polite, and they've been a pleasure to work with. And so, with that said, I know that our crowd's a little lighter than maybe it was earlier, but I hope that y'all join me in giving these kiddos a big round of applause for all their hard work. I'm not going to belabor the experience and go back through and talk each one of these division winners out here. I think there's one that, God hasn't made a perfect one yet, but, despite a couple things that I might like to nitpick on, and I'm critical, I'll find something wrong with everything. Just ask everybody that gets to show livestock with me. But despite a couple little things that I might like to nitpick on, I think there's one that just in terms of breeding value does some really special things. And past there, I think it's a tough horse race to find that reserve champion and kind of fit with that really, really special one to find for that champion position. So I'm going to set the mic down, take one more walk around with these, but it has been my absolute honor and sincere privilege to be with you all and work through your white cattle today. It's been really enjoyable. And again, please congratulate these kids as they're selected for their championship honors.
First call, Class 1 Belted Galloways. First call, Class 1 Belted Galloways. And your grand champion, Charolais Junior Female, goes to entry number 57, Boy Smokin' Monty, 200J, exhibited by Carter Hogue of Good Hope, Illinois. And your reserve grand champion, Junior Charolais Female out of your calf division, goes to entry number 25, BDCC AGRF White Claw 128K, exhibited by Alexis Miley of Huntington, Pennsylvania. We'd also like to congratulate your grand champion, Charolais Bred and Owned Female. Also goes to entry number 57, Boy Smokin' Monty 200J, exhibited by Carter Hogue of Good Hope, Illinois. Congratulations, all Charolais exhibitors.